Thank you very much for staying. Welcome back. Now, a delegation of Moroccan investors is in the country to explore ways of improving the expertise of local businesses. The investors have been expressing the desire to boost bilateral trade with Ghana. This was at the maiden edition of the Ghana-Morocco Summit held in Accra. Here's more in this report.
Trade ties between Ghana and Morocco currently stand at less than 1%. This is according to figures from the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It is against these troubling figures that, of course, they have met with investors from Morocco to explore the best ways by which both countries could boost bilateral trade. We shall be getting in touch with some of the investors from Morocco as well as those here in Ghana as to the best ways by which they could explore the business opportunities in both countries, especially when the call for bilateral trade continues to deepen. The conference brought together a section of the business community to their counterpart from Morocco to deliberate on some best ways to boost trade ties between both countries. Deputy Trade Minister Nkalemte said government continues to remain focused on creating the most business-friendly environment in West Africa.
Permit me to use this opportunity to formally welcome our friends from Morocco and to wish them a fruitful deliberations during this forum. As they engage with their Ghanaian counterparts, I hope networks that add value to the warm relationship that has long existed between our two nations would further be strengthened.
Speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive Officer of the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaji, says the Chamber is now prioritizing on ways to engage both governments of Ghana and Morocco on increasing trade ties in the country.
If you look at the trade statistics, Ghana's export to Morocco as at 2016 was just about $7 million, which represents less than 1% of our total export. And then Moroccan's export to us, that's our imports, it's also about $87 million, which is also about less than 1% of our total import. But we realize that there are a lot of opportunities that both countries can tap into. They are somehow advanced. They have a lot of product that we can also import. They also need some of the product that we have here in terms of the raw materials to add value to. So this process started early this year when a delegation of 200 businessmen and women came to Ghana under the collaboration of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, together with the King of Morocco, and we signed an MOU with some of the institutions in there. And the main idea is to see how Ghana and Morocco can collaborate to set up factories here and also factories in Morocco to do business and do business in Morocco. Our focus is also on the one district, one factory, which has given us opportunity to set up factories in all the districts that we have in Ghana. We have raw materials. We need to add value to them so that we can export and get a lot of foreign exchange. So we are bringing them in here to partner with either Ghanaians or to come in as a fully owned foreign company to set up some of these factories here so that we can produce and export.
Meanwhile, General Manager of the Morocco Center for Export Promotion, Zara Mafiri, has been sharing the reasons behind Moroccan investors focusing on Ghana.
Ghana is doing very well for the climate of business. It's open country, open economy. It's very transparent. It belongs to ECOWAS group, and also they have a clear vision of development. They would like to work on the transform and processing of the raw materials and to diversify the exports and investment in products and services.
Tremendous is lovely. This is lovely. Beautiful, beautiful. And
now moving on, government has indicated the likely price or interest is hoping to pay on tomorrow's bond sale. This is what Joy Business has picked up from persons close to government. According to persons, the transaction is looking at an interest range of between 16 and 19% when the offer opens. The deal has been structured in a way that a fraction of the 6 billion cedi it hopes to raise over 7 years will be over 7 years, while the remainder would be done in 10 years. Some of the domestic investors say they are okay with the proposed price guidance. Nana Safo is Chief Executive of Bora Capital.
I think what they've done is that they put a very good structure in place to make sure that if you put a client's investment into it, you are more as close at getting a return and also getting it in terms of security-wise, an investment be protected almost like a government security. So my concerns have been addressed.
Are we going to see you obviously placing some funds into this whole structure that they have developed?
We've already had discussions with some of our clients, and we are very sure that we will put some money inside. You know, we are a small institution, so we haven't got a lot, but we will still make sure that we get some funds in.
Apart from the issue about the ASLA receivables not being enough to back this whole structure or arrangement, what are the issues that came up from the other colleagues as well who were present in this meeting?
I think there was a couple of very intelligent questions. One as to whether the receivables in terms will be sufficient, and one as to, in fact, there was a lady who even asked whether the other banks were going to convert some of their monies and get a bonds to it.
Cash and bonds.
Both cash and bonds. And I think to a large extent, the structure is very good. They've been very considerate, both governments and then the issuers and advisors have been very considerate in putting in. So on the whole, it's a very good structure that you find it very comforting in terms of investors' interests being protected.
Let's look at the pricing guide, 1619. Will that motivate you enough to place a lot more of your funds into it, or you'll be looking for a higher price? Looking at the current structure, the split tranche being issued, 7-year, 10-year, even with that one, the funds is all being split as well. Would you want maybe a 20 or even a 21 or a 22?
At the moment, getting a 22 for a government bond will have been very interesting. To us, it is close to a government bond as you get. So we will be expecting, most government bonds at the moment are doing around 17.5, and I think the best today is 17.6. So overall, if you get up to say 1% above government of Ghana yields, that will still be a very good price.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive of Standard Chartered Bank, Mansa Neti, has been explaining to Joy Business what has been put in place to make the offer successful.
According to the president of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Reginald France, the week-long celebrations would, among other things, industry and ensure
we've this energy bond, and we've also assisted in the marketing in both offshore markets and the domestic markets. And for the offshore markets, let me say, these are offshore participants who normally would invest in Ghanaian bonds anyway. So these are the kind of investors that we have targeted for this particular issue.
One would say that what should we expect from Standard Chartered Bank with respect to this whole deal? I mean, you've done this, and this is your space in terms of the presence, the strength, the connections, and all the rest. So what should we be expecting from you and what you are bringing on board?
So Standard Chartered, we've been in this bank for 120 years. We've worked very closely with governments as their sovereigns and solutions partner. We have very strong capabilities in the capital markets. And so aside from Ghana, we've worked in other markets across Africa, where we've led, the issuing of bonds. And I'll say that this bond is first to be issued in this market. It's a corporate bond with a special purpose vehicle structure, where this SPV will issue the bond, and it will be supported by flows from the ESLA levies.
One would ask that, have you secured some commitment from these other partners that you engage and work with over the period in terms of we are interested? Not the names, but have you secured that firm commitment that in terms of the amount that you're looking for, we are going to get it? If a subscription comes in, well, that's a bonus because of what we are bringing on board.
So, I'm sure you're aware that the Deputy Minister of Finance and the teams from Standard Chartered Bank and Fidelity were on a roadshow last week in Boston, in London, and in New York. There is some interest from investors. But I guess when the bond is issued, then we'll see the level of interest. But at this point, I can't say.
Not as in the amount and all the rest, but them expressing commitment that we are interested, we will participate. We are going back to our investment committees, we are going back to our bosses to finalize everything, even look at the amount, but not to tell me that maybe this other bank says you are putting in maybe $500 million. No, but those firm commitment that would give you that firm assurance to start putting the numbers and even crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
You see, feedback that we receive from some of the investors is that they like the structure. And they see the benefits for the wider economy, because you know that the energy sector issues have plagued this economy for a while, and the impact it has on the banking sector with regards to NPLs, the shortage of liquidity, and the fact that even banks can't lend to the wider economy. So investors actually look broader. They look at how this issue is going to help resolve the issues within the economy and ensure that the economy is ripe to start to grow again.
Now, still on the bond sale, the Ghana Securities and Industry Association is expressing optimism about the energy sector bond, which was issued today. The bond is expected to raise about 6 billion cedis over 7- and 10-year periods. In an interview with Joy Business at the launch of the Capital Market Week, President of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Reginald France, said the bond issue is a step in the right direction.
The bond is a unique bond that the government is issuing. It is actually to pay off the energy sector debts. It has been ring-fenced. The sources are very clear. All of us are going to be paying for it by buying fuel at the pump, and they take a few pennies out. They ring-fence the money to ensure that they can settle these debts with the financial institutions. It helps each of the energy sector institutions clean off their balance sheet, which then becomes better for you and I in terms of it. So it's a very important part of the solution to clearing problems we've had in the past. The levy is already there and we are paying it. Okay. Yes, so it actually strengthens, once the banks are paid, it actually strengthens the institutions and the SOEs to have better liquidity. And I think it's one of the policies that government has been working on from the last administration and the current administration.
Now, President of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Reginald France, is also advising stakeholders to pay attention to developments in all aspects of the financial market. Reginald France cited recent collapse of some banks as challenges that could have negative consequences on the financial markets. He spoke to Joy Business.
According to the president of the Ghana Securities Industry Association, Reginald France, the week-long celebrations would, among other things, be used to deliberate on how to maintain investor confidence in the industry and ensure security of the industry as a whole. So the Capital Week celebrations has been officially launched under the theme ensuring the safety and security of Ghana's financial markets. Now, this particular week aims at improving Ghana's financial markets by looking at ways to mitigate challenges in this particular sector and how to improve investments in Ghana's stock exchange. Now, key among the issues that stood up was the fact that assets under management had seen some increment to about 70 billion cedis. However, the president of the GSIA, Reginald France, believes that there's still room for improvement.
Essentially, what has happened with defaulting banks and also government trying to ensure that banks are paid from the ESLA bonds on things that have occurred. These are systemic risks if people are extending credit and they are not being paid for. Defaults and NPRs in banks has a knock-off event to all aspects, because when they start writing the provisions off, the companies go under, and we begin to see that. And so I think we need to pay attention to what happens in one side of the market, whether it's on the banking side or whether it's on the listed equity side. There is a repercussion across board.
On his part, Director General for the Security and Exchange Committee, Reverend Ogbami Tete, reiterated the SEC's resolve to increase the capital requirement.
The minimum capital requirement has been very low for many years now. For a fund manager or investment advisor, what we have currently is 100,000 Ghana cedis, and I think everybody agrees that it is really low. And if you want to have very strong institutions or operators who have the muscle to ensure that they are serving the client needs, they must have the backbone. So we are in the process. I think I gave the hint that there's going to be that upward revision. The plan is to do some engagement with the market because we believe that we want to get their buy-in, but we'll keep the overriding objective in view, which is to make sure that at the end of the day, we have very strong market operators. I want to believe that by the end of this month, would have started the engagement process with the market.
Activities for the celebrations include education for tertiary students on the capital market and the organization of debates. Sheila Tamaklo's report for Joy Business.
All right, so it looks like we're going to stay a bit further on the capital market because I've been joined by our research analyst, Bertha Atubiga, who is right here to give us an update of the market, how it ended last week and how it opened this week, the performance of the various equities and also the commodities as well as the currencies. Now, Bertha, you're welcome. Now, before you even proceed, I would like to share your thoughts on the capital market week, the theme for it, and what exactly are we to expect.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel. But you remember when the president of the Ghana Securities and Industry Association was talking about, he made mention of the fact that stakeholders need to understand more about what's happening in the capital market. Okay. And you see, there's one particular thing that is key. If you don't have this basic, it's not even advisable to get onto the capital market in terms of investment. You need to understand what the stock market is. You need to understand certain things, the market worth of each equity, and then you need to understand how much each equity is returning. You also need to understand the background of every single equity, or it could be that you are invested in equity shares or even bonds or other stuffs, but you need to understand them very well before you actually think of investing in them. Why do we expect investors, or why are we advocating that investors should understand more of these things? You know, recently we just heard about some company, UT Bank was delisted from the exchange, and we had 4 other companies be suspended. And if you realize some of the companies, actually we saw about 4 of the companies being suspended on the market. And then one other thing is, if you had enough information about these companies, especially with UT Bank, you wouldn't be wondering what is happening right now, or it wouldn't come as a shock. Because if you're following the market very well, you get to understand what's happening with the companies before you even invest in them. Okay. So financial literacy is very important. Probably you wouldn't know, but it's always good to study before you get into any market. So
would you necessarily agree with me that this kind of education is woefully inadequate in our tertiary sector? Because many people don't really know about the stock market in schools, except maybe
it could be the awareness. The awareness is not as let me say, it's not as massive as we expect it to be. You know, and in the tertiary institutions, depending on the course that you're studying, it could be that if you're not in the business side, even the business, you are limited.
Exactly.
Okay, you are limited. Probably you're doing finance or something. That's how come you get to know about the stock market. But if you are not, then it means that you're actually closing your mind to how the market is. But it will be very advisable that we incorporate this in most of our studies, because it's not like it's only meant for business people or it's meant for only the rich people, but it is for everyone. And it's actually one way that we can raise capital. It's actually one way that we can make very significant gains, even sometimes in the short term, like we're seeing with some equities, returning within a year have returned more than 100% to investors.
So you don't get all the businesses running to the banks.
No, and lots of people don't even know that we have something called stock exchange. A lot of people don't know that we have shares that are being traded, that are traded on the market. Most people don't even know that we have the alternative market, which is more flexible for SMEs to list. Some people wait to get enough money before they list on the GAX, but no, the GAX was made so flexible so that these SMEs can actually raise capital to expand their businesses.
Very well. Now tell us how did the stocks fare last week?
Okay, so last week we had some equities gaining and losing, but we saw the major indices. The Ghana Stock Exchange has two major indices, the composite and then the financial stock index. The composite closed at 37.06%, and then the financial stock index closed at 30.10%. But this week, we're expecting some equities to add up to investors' capital. We're expecting GGBO. Why GGBO? GGBO actually turned its profit margins around, especially this year. They were able to make some profit. If you look at last year, they made a loss of about 7.7 million Ghana cedis in the first half of 2016. But this year, they were able to make a profit after tax of 11.6 million Ghana cedis, which is positive, not a loss actually. So they were able to turn the fortunes of the company around very, very significantly. And with this, we are also expecting that in the last quarter of 2017, they are going to increase their revenues. So with this expectation, we expect that there's going to be a demand for the share on the market, with more people patronizing it. And also gold, we're expecting it to go up this week, further add up to investors' capital, because there's been this increase in investors' interest in the equity on the stock market. So whenever the demand for an equity goes up on the exchange, then we see the price actually going up. So gold is expected also to also go up. BOPP is also one of our stock picks, has returned more than 180% to investors this year, and we're expecting it to go up. This is actually due to like high investor confidence in the equity.
Right, so many people are ready for the currencies. How are the currencies going now? The dollar against the cedi, the pound sterling against the cedi, and others?
Well, the local currency, let me say, has not recorded very significant losses this week. Now, last week, the cedi gained marginally to almost all the major trading partners, on the interbank market, and the year-to-date depreciation has actually reduced from about 9% to 8.95%. That's based on the Gold Coast cedi index. That's the current rate at which the cedi has lost against these major trading partners. That's the dollar, the pound, euro, and then the CFA. Now, to the dollar, the cedi has lost 4.18%. That's the year-to-date depreciation to the dollar. And to the pound, it is 11.15%. That is quite huge. And then the euro is 16.37%. And you know, one thing is we've been missing out on the pound and then the euro. But to be honest, the dollar has been relatively stable. Comparatively to the euro and then the pound. And we need to, well, the euro, we don't have much control over it. It has to do with external factors. And we don't have much control over that.
Okay, many thanks for your time. Beta Atubiga will update us on how the performance of the market ends by Friday. Now, the Institute of Customer Service Professionals wants a regulatory body that will focus on customer service delivery. CEO of the Institute, Yvonne McCarthy, says the Registrar General must add a customer bit to business registration. She's been speaking with Odilia Ntiamwa.
Interview of the day. Even before you set up a business, if you go to the Registrar General, I think you should be given some code of conduct in terms of how you run your business. You're actually registering for a business, and they give you a code of conduct which is quite technical. It has nothing to do with the soft side of dealing with your business. It has to do with shareholdings and all the other, technical side. But what happens to how you deal with the customer, giving them your word, being a responsible service provider? So all those things will come to play. Probably in the future we're looking at these things, but we feel that when there's a regulator or there's a commission or there's somebody who actually stands for that specific area, people will then start to sit up.
How critical is customer service when people are starting a business?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Businesses actually do collapse because of lack of knowledge in that particular area, customer service. Because yes, you might need capital. Most people don't actually need the capital that they ask for, but they need the customer service training. What you're doing is you're setting up a business, not just for yourself. I've never met anyone who would say to you, I set up this business so that I can cook and come and eat, or so that I can sew and wear the dresses myself. It's because I want to do it for somebody. That person is who you call your customer. So how do you set up a business without understanding how that person behaves, because you have consumer behavior. You should understand that before you set up. You should understand the types of customers you even want to, start attracting. You have units like Maslock. I always say that places like that should not just give loans. Before you give the loan, require them to take a course, because you're giving them the loan to go and fetch customers to make money and then come and pay you back.
So what you're requiring is that even in the banking sector and of course venture capitals and all that should require customer.
Because when someone comes in, I'm giving you the money and I want you to succeed so you can pay me back the money. So I should put in something that would also check or guide you to make sure that you're at least 90% on the road to success, so I can also get my money.
Well, finally, give us one customer service tip.
Okay, look, I always say to people, especially because this has a lot to do with CEOs. When you are a CEO, don't just think or dream about how big your business can be. Dream about how big your customers can make you, because they do make you.
Interview of the day.
And that will be it for this evening's edition of Business Live. It's a pleasure having you on board, and hope you do so again tomorrow. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Have a good evening.